All right, today we're going to dig into a really powerful metaphor that gets at the hidden relationship between knowledge and power. It all kicks off with something super simple: selling ice cream. But as you're about to see, what you're actually buying is way more complicated than that. So, picture this. You've got a choice. You can buy just the ice cream, the product itself, or you can buy the ice cream and the cooler it's being kept in. Now, that might seem like a tiny detail, right? But according to our source material, this exact choice is the key to understanding how influence really truly works. And this sets up a fascinating comparison. On one side, you've got the product, the thing you think you want, but on the other side, you've got the entire system that delivers it. Let's break down what's really going on there. Look, selling just the ice cream is pretty straightforward. It's a simple, one-time deal. You get exactly what you paid for. But selling the cooler? Whoa, that's a much more complex exchange. All of a sudden, it's not just about the tasty treat, it's about the technology, the method, the whole infrastructure around that treat. Okay, so this brings us right to the heart of the metaphor. If the ice cream is the obvious skill or the lesson you're learning, what in the world is inside this cooler that comes with it? What are you signing up for, maybe without even realizing it when you take the whole package? According to our source, the cooler isn't just a box. It represents the entire framework that's bundled with a product or a piece of training. It's all the stuff that isn't on the official lesson plan, but you absorb it anyway. We're talking about a system of values, a specific body of knowledge, and these subtle forms of influence that totally shape how you use what you've learned. So let's really unpack this thing. What's inside? Well, it's a whole value system. It's a worldview. It's a very specific way of thinking strategically. You might think you're just picking up a new skill, but our source argues you're actually adopting an entire intellectual package deal, the whole shebang. And this is where the metaphor just explodes into something so much bigger. The source material connects this idea directly to the real world of international relations, where things like education and training can become incredibly powerful tools of influence. This quote right here, this is the pivot point. It suggests that there's a moment where a simple educational exchange crosses a line. It stops being this neutral transfer of skills and starts becoming something else entirely, a transfer of influence. So here's the crucial point. When one nation sends its people to be trained by another, they aren't just learning how to do stuff. They are, often completely unconsciously, absorbing an ideology. And with that ideology comes influence. The trainees start to pick up the thought processes, the assumptions, the entire worldview of their instructors. Their perspective can really start to shift. And, well, ultimately, this can even begin to shape their very sense of allegiance, completely changing the power dynamic between the two nations. The cooler has just been successfully delivered. But what happens when the buyer starts to notice this hidden price tag? Our source material describes this really dramatic turning point, a moment of realization and ultimately rejection. And there it is. That's the moment. The buyer decides that this unspoken deal is just not acceptable anymore. They might still want the ice cream, the skills, but they are explicitly rejecting the ideological package, the cooler that it comes in. So why the rejection? Why the sudden change of heart? This line from the source just sums it up perfectly. The buyer realizes that the container, the ideology, has actually started to corrupt the product itself. The value system is so strong that it changes the very nature of the knowledge being shared, and it just doesn't taste right anymore. This all brings us to the ultimate conclusion, the big takeaway from our source material. And it's a really powerful statement about the nature of knowledge itself in a world full of competing interests. And there you have it, laid bare. The central argument is that knowledge, especially when you're talking about strategy, always comes with an agenda. It always carries the fingerprints of the people who created it, their values, their biases, their goals. There's just no such thing as a truly neutral lesson. So to wrap this all up, selling the ice cream is just business. But selling the cooler, that's not a transaction anymore. It's a profound ideological choice. It's a decision about which worldview you're willing to buy into. And that leaves us with a really critical question for all of us, right? In a classroom, at a company training, even watching an online tutorial. When we go looking for knowledge, what else are we buying into? What comes with the lesson? Thanks for tuning in.